Hey 3D printers, let's talk more about turning bottles like this or like this into usable 3D printing filament. Like this is black, or this green. And then from that, we could create really cool stuff like this clear dragon. Or how about all of these bears? Look at the colors on that. In my prior videos, I've already talked about sourcing the bottles, cutting them into strips, making filament out of it. And I'm getting about ready to cover doing the welding of segments of filament together. And before we talk about that, I want to talk a little bit about the spools that we're going to use. And everyone's going to be tempted to reuse old spools like this. There's a couple of problems with that. First off, PET filament is very inflexible. So if you were to take a spool like this and wrap the filament around it, it just wants to unwind. That's not going to work very well. The other big problem with spools like this is the diameter of this hub. If you look in there, that's only 3.5 inches roughly. So if you try to take two pieces of filament and join them together and you get a good weld, you go to wrap that around that small hub, that weld is going to break every time. So these spools, nah, forget those. Now my own personal solution to this problem is not a very elegant one. Cardboard. Yeah, I'm recycling boxes, go figure, right? So these are about 1 foot in diameter. Get all that in there. And if you'll see here, they're not real wide, but that hub in there, that's about 8 inches. So that larger hub is going to help us in this case because the filament won't want to unwind as easily. And secondly, with that smaller bend or that larger arc here, it won't have a tendency to break those welds when we make them. We're going to take the time to weld all this stuff together. I don't want it to be breaking before it feeds into the printer. So when it comes to making spools for your own PET filament, you may have to come up with a different design, something that works for you out of the materials that you have. You're just going to want to keep in mind that larger hub. Now for this CR10 behind me here, you'll see at the top, I have that spool up there. It's a standard spool. But for these cardboard spools, I designed my own type of a system that I can replace that spool up there with this. Put my cardboard spool on there, it threads onto that. This wing nut holds it in place, and it feeds down into my printer just like that one does. So it's all about being creative, people. Now with the size of these spools, I've calculated I can get about 10 of these large 1-gallon water bottles. Each one of these gives me about 14.5 meters, I guess. And I can get about 10 to 12 of those on one of these spools. So that's in the neighborhood of 150 meters. And you see there I've got some purple, I've got some green made up, here's a bunch of clear, and I've got other colors I'm making. So in the next video, I'll be showing you more about doing the actual welding and the method that I use. And I'm sure this is going to stir up quite a bit of controversy because other people have their methods for joining filament. I have mine, I'll share that. So, all right, till next time.